look at what has happened so far. You've had the auto industry spending millions of dollars every year lobbying so that the government can keep giving them the SUV loopholes, the massive tax credits for SUV gas-guzzling cars that basically got them to this place. So government has been an enabler of what has happened. Now what we are asking is not for the government to run the auto industry, but for the current CEOs to definitely leave. There is no way that the people who brought the auto industry to this point are going to be the ones that rescue it. Bring in new leadership. And there is no question, David, that we know what to do. I mean, it's been done by Toyota. It's been done by many companies, the fuel-efficient cars that they're producing and that the public is buying without having to spend billions of dollars in advertising, as Detroit did, to convince us that we need those gas-guzzling SUVs for years now.
And the automakers argue, David, that they're actually farther along in innovation than their competitors. They just haven't been able to get the cars to the market.
Well, the analysts I read, they say that we just need a bridge loan. The analysts I read, and I'm not an expert in the auto industry, but it seems to me there is a consensus among the analysts they're not far along. Or they've made progress, but it's going to take more than a bridge loan. It takes fundamental restructuring. Restructuring maybe the management, but where are you going to get a new management? It takes restructuring of the political culture. And the question is, how is that restructuring most likely to appear or go along positively? It seems to me the least political process is the way to do that. And Chapter 11 was designed for that.
You know, if anyone has seen the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car, Detroit had a production car in 1996 that was a plug-in electric car, and they killed it because they weren't making enough money. They recalled and crushed every single one of these that was on the road. These are really dumb guys. You know, it's not just that they took corporate jets to Washington to plead for a bailout. They've made one dumb decision after another. And George, with all due respect, you can't blame this on the government. CAFE standards is one of the few public policies that actually prodded them to make fuel-efficient cars that they didn't want to make. This is a really tough question. You need to get rid of these executives, and you need to have a plan that is jointly developed so that Detroit can make competitive cars that are fuel-efficient. I don't think it makes sense for the government to allow the auto industry to go down the drain with 3 million jobs and all of the secondary impacts just because the current executives happen to be fools.
General Motors is advertising as the key to their future the Chevrolet Volt, which Congress has already voted a $7,500 tax credit to try and bribe purchasers into buying a car that otherwise they won't buy. Now, this is not a sustainable business model.
Well, go ahead. Well, consumers were lined up to buy the EV1 in 1996, and instead of investing in production of those cars, they invested in bribing the head of the authority.
It cost them $35,000 more to make it than they could sell it for. You can't make that up in volume, Bob.
Well, you can make it up in volume, actually. If you refine the technology, you slide down the cost curve, you reduce your unit costs. This is what the Japanese did, but they were smarter than we were.
Sides of this are well staked out. Let's move on to another topic here, and that is the rest of the President-elect Obama's team. It sure seems like Senator Hillary Clinton is going to be Secretary of State. Everybody says it's on track right now. And Ariane, let me ask you the question I asked David Axelrod at the top. It looks like Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, probably, although not definitely, Jim Jones as National Security Advisor, Bob Gates as Secretary of Defense. A lot of those, a lot of the netroots that you're in touch with, fueled by opposition to the war. David Axelrod felt that they're going to give President Obama a lot of leeway on his team. Do you agree?
Absolutely, and they should, because this is, as Axelrod said, his vision and his agenda, both foreign policy agenda and domestic agenda, and the people that he nominates are going to be there to implement with him his agenda. But the Hillary Clinton nomination has really left the realm of politics and has entered the realm of novel writing. I want Henry James, you know, Portrait of a Lady Secretary of State. It's just amazing, the whole drama of the last week. You know, first of all, we had denials. Then we had the second call that apparently made her comfortable. Then we had endless anonymous sources. We haven't had that many anonymous sources dominating coverage through the entire campaign. So the president-elect needs to realize that he's not just bringing in Hillary. He's not just bringing Hillary and Bill. He's bringing in an entire court of chancellors and chamberlains and many court jesters. And
The end of no drama Obama, David Brooks.
Thank God, it's a good day for journalism. No, I think she's a good pick, actually. I'm not sure she can manage the State Department. I'm not sure she's managed anything particularly well. But if you looked at her foreign policy behavior when she was in the U.S. Senate, she was tough. I used to get these calls from the Bush White House, and they'd say, we had a bunch of senators down here. Guess who asked the best questions? And it was Hillary. And they would ask sort of wild-eyed amazement, but I think a lot of Republican senators came to respect her.
They were also invested in building her up there for a while.
Well, no, but this was honest. This was honest. And I would say this is generally true of the people Obama has picked. Republicans like them. Republicans respect Peter Orszag, who may go to the budget office. They respect Eric Holder, by and large, who may go to justice. They campaign against Obama as this socialist leftist. But what we've seen is he's a pretty pragmatic centrist guy.
Yes, a month ago, liberals were hoping and conservatives were fearing that this was the ascendance of anti-market people deeply skeptical of capitalism. That's not Geithner, and that's not Summers, and that's not Hillary Clinton. That's not any of these people. So it seems to me, on the scale of disappointment so far, your people ought to be.
you know, this is so untrue. Just watch or listen to Obama's radio address yesterday. I mean, that was a very, very profoundly different plan for this country than we've heard for a long time. I mean, these were massive public investments. This was not a small government, small deficit plan. And so the idea that we're living in a center-right country is refuted by all the facts. The center has shifted. What used to be progressive positions on global warming, on Iraq, on corporate responsibility, on healthcare are now solidly mainstream. We are still a divided country, but it's 2/3, 1/3. It's no longer 50-50.
Bob, you write in your book that Obama has the chance to be the first transformative progressive president since Lyndon Johnson. Is this the team that will bring that about from your perspective?
You know, it's very tricky because on the one hand, as Arianna says, he's the president, and it's rather astute to appoint a bunch of people who reassure folks like George Will and David Brooks, and then govern as a progressive. That's very shrewd. On the other hand, I would feel a little better if there were a few progressives, real progressives, on the pocketbook issues inside. Where's Joseph Stiglitz?
Former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Nobel Prize winner.
Right, but someone who really believes deeply that casino capitalism is a menace and no, he's not a socialist, but he believes in a managed form of capitalism. James Galbraith, fine economist in his own right, son of John Kenneth Galbraith, is rumored possibly to be getting a position on the Council of Economic Advisors. I would feel a little better if some of those folks were inside. However, at the same time, every time I second-guessed Obama in the campaign, he was right and I was wrong. He's the shrewdest natural politician in a generation. So
the left still has a lot of love for Obama coming out of the election.
For 2 years. No fights, because you're giving away $700 billion. Everybody gets everything. And after 2 years, you get some fights.
Where will the fights come?
Well, the fights will come on how stringently to re-regulate the banks. We've seen one pole of that debate, Paulson, just give them money and don't attach any conditions. I think Geithner's going to be pretty good on this. We'll see another debate on what to do about housing. Do you bail out the bondholders or do you help the mortgage holders directly? We'll see a debate on how big the stimulus package is and whether it's a one-shot or whether it's an ongoing program.
It is extraordinary. You see the approval ratings for President-elect Obama, the highest of any incoming president since Kennedy. You see how much leeway he's going to get from his supporters. No incoming president in memory has had this.
That's right. But it's not easy being liberal, Bob, these days.
It's easier than it was.
The New York City Council, which ranges from very liberal to hyper-liberal, woke up one morning last week to their nightmare, which was Goldman Sachs said they weren't going to hand out their bonuses, and perhaps other executives would do the same. And suddenly it dawned on them, who are we going to tax? Because bonuses from Wall Street fill the coffers of the City Council of New York.